It actually looks pretty freaking good. What's going on, y'all? Hamdi here. Welcome to episode 7. In this episode, we take the front clip off the truck and we get the firewall cleaned up and painted. I show you all the steps. I kind of rushed through getting the front clip off. I think there's plenty of videos on how to unbolt stuff. And I'll just kind of walk y'all through the steps I took to paint the actual firewall. You know, the sandpaper I used, the spray paint I used. Y'all enjoy. Alright, so far I've removed all my accessories, you know, my battery tray, my brake boosters, ABS, windshield wiper motor thingy, all that good stuff. So it's basically just bare fenders, inner fenders, and a firewall now. And my next step is, I was going to leave the fenders on originally, but now I'm going to pull the fenders off. So I'm going to pull the fenders off, and I'm going to start pressure washing and degreasing everything. I'm going to scuff it up and get it ready for paint. Alright, so getting these fenders off was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. It was just a couple of bolts on each side, you know, 2 or 3 bolts on one side, and then a couple along the top, and it came right off. So now that these are done, I'm going to let these sit in here for a little while, not my main focus. I'm about to start pressure washing and degreasing the cab. Alright, so this is what it looks like after I finish pressure washing. It actually looks pretty freaking good. There's still some scratches and like some yellowing in some areas. It looks good, but it's not perfect. So I'm still gonna paint it. But yeah, I just wanted to show you what it looked like, you know, just with a quick wipe down and some degreasing and pressure washing. So I'd say my biggest areas of concern. So my biggest area of concern are going to be up here under the cowl. You know, I'm not too worried about someone sticking a flashlight down into my cowl to look at this. I'm going to try and clean it up a little bit with some sandpaper, but I don't know, I'm just concerned about paint sticking here with all these cracks. Alright, well here are my steps I'm going to follow for paint. First I'm going to scuff everything up with some 320 grit, then I'll move to a finer 600 grit. Then I'm going to mask everything off with some masking tape and some garbage bags. And then I'm going to wipe and degrease everything with some alcohol and a shop rag. Hopefully that doesn't leave lint. And then I'm going to hit it with some white duplicolor color match. It's Olympic white and then some of their clear. And then depending on what it looks like after, I'll move to a cutting compound and a polishing compound. And then looking out here, it's super windy today. Not really ideal for paint. I don't want debris getting thrown up on it. So I've got a couple sheets of plywood here that I might stack on either side to try and combat the wind a little bit. Not sure how well it's going to work out. And then the second thing I've got going on here is I've loosened all the bolts on that's still left on the firewall. Some of these bolts are holding things like the HVAC on the inside and they can't be completely removed. So what I've done is I've loosened them a little bit, so there's a tiny little gap in between the firewall and the bolt. That way when I go to paint here, I will be painting behind the bolt, and the bolt will not be physically attached to the firewall. That way if I ever do have to do some repairs here and remove these bolts, it's not tearing or ripping the paint when I do that. So I just finished hitting everything with 360 and then 600. Doesn't really look any better. I was mainly going to get rid of some of the yellow and some of the scratches, some of the surface stuff off, which I did a good job with, I think. But the paint was really thin, so like the primer's starting to show through in a few areas. And then what I've gone and done is I have removed all the tape I had on here. I've done some duct tape on here to keep the water from getting inside the cab and whatnot. But there was some water sitting on the outside of it, so I just want to re-tape everything with some dry tape. That way I don't have water dripping out onto the paint. And now what I'm going to do is, like you can see, like areas like here where I had the tape, it still needs to be cleaned. So I'll hit these with some alcohol and some sandpaper to clean up around those areas, and then I'll tape everything a little bit more finer. Alright, so I've got everything sanded down and I'm about to start masking things up. I'm still super concerned with the wind. I don't know if you can tell, but wind's blowing pretty steady. Gonna try and figure something out with that. Alright, well that took a hot minute. Can't say it was the funnest thing in the world, but I've got everything taped up. I got some plastic around the sides. I'm not too worried about anything behind that. I've got all my bolts and all my whatever's still on the firewall taped up, and got the sides taped up a little bit. So what I'm really going for here is, obviously this is the area that everyone's going to be looking at, so that's what I'm really kind of that's where I'm going to spend most of my time, making sure everything's right. Up here I'm also going to paint the cowl because of how chipped it is. Let me focus in on that. There's a bunch of bare metal and stuff up here, so I'm going to paint it just to paint it, so you know I don't have bare metal on the truck, but no one's going to see it, so I'm just going to slap some paint over this without putting too much prep into the cowl. But the firewall is really what I'm concerned about here. Alright, so now what I'm about to do is I'm about to wipe everything down with some alcohol. Alright, so I have finished wiping everything down with some alcohol. It's nice and degreased. It's still super windy. You can tell everything's blowing around right now. I put the plywood back up. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I don't know. I'm just going to send it. Alright, so far I've done a light coat and 2 medium coats. I think the base is set in pretty good. You know, it was already white. I was just freshening up the paint, so I think it looks good. Now there's just some scratches and stuff where I really need to go heavier to fill in those scratches. So I'll probably go over the firewall one more time, but I'm really going to be spraying heavy on these scratches to get rid of all these marks. Alright, so this is after multiple coats of white. It's got like a nice matte white to it. The wind has blown some stuff into it, which kind of sucks. But other than that, it looks pretty good. Alright, now I'm going to start with the clear coat. Alright y'all, so this is what it looks like now that I'm done clearing. Kind of lost track of how many coats of clear I did. I did probably about 4 coats, 5 to 10 minutes apart on them. I went pretty heavy with the last few coats. It looks pretty good. It's got this nice like matte white to it. I'm sure if I polished it and stuff that it would come to be like a brighter glossy white. But you know, for the firewall, I'm pretty happy with it being just a matte white. You can't see any of the scratches or the yellowing or any kind of rust on the firewall. It looks freaking clean. So I'm quite happy with it. The only thing I want to see now is once I start pulling tape off, I want to make sure that I don't ruin the paint at all. But other than that, I think we are good to go. Alright, so some of the tape I'm going to leave on for now just because it's covering stuff I don't want to get wet. But this is what the final product looks like. Clear dried in like just a few minutes. Looks pretty freaking good. Alright y'all, that's going to do it for this video. The paint came out great on the firewall. I'm super happy with it. You know, it's not a professional job, but it's pretty solid. We're this close to getting the cab back on the frame. Now that this is done, it's ready to go on. I've got some bushings coming, some new body bushings for the frame coming sometime in the next few days. And then the engine from Van Gilder Racing Engines should be ready to pick up any day now. So here in a few days we should actually see some real progress. You know, the last few videos, you know, you look at the frame and the cab and, you know, people, you know, walking by are probably like, dude, you haven't done anything. But, you know, there's been some big progress. You know, we're this close to really having some tangible, you know, something you can see. And I'm super excited for it. As always, if y'all have enjoyed this video or found it useful or whatever, you know, help me grow. Like, comment, subscribe. What that basically does is it tells YouTube I'm super cool, and then it shows my video to more people. So again, thank you, and Habdi out.